Hi, thanks for tuning in to this One Cool Thing Stories podcast for Saratoga. I'm Christopher Ori, TOSA at LGS UHSD. If this is your first time listening, which it probably is since I've only done 2 so far, this podcast is at least starting off as an infrequent and somewhat on-the-fly kind of podcast. The idea originally came about as a small piece of a movement I'm trying to create centered around one cool thing. One cool thing is a catalyst of innovation. It's a celebration of the great things educators do in the hopes that we can draw inspiration from others and apply their ideas to our own context. A one cool thing moment is basically an aha moment, and we all know how aha moments can be catalysts for us. So I've been dabbling in various ways of celebrating the work of my colleagues, and the idea of audio interviews was one of the ideas that's come up. I've been exploring this idea of telling people stories as a way of celebrating what they do in hopes that it might inspire others in some way. At Saratoga, I've been a part of a social emotional learning team, or SEL team, for about 5 years, with a break 1 year in there. When we met for the first time a couple weeks ago, we began discussing our priorities for the year. One of our priorities is to focus more on in-class strategies that promote great connectedness between teachers and students to students. I realized right there that my informal ad hoc podcast might be a great fit for this need. So moving forward, our team's hope is to interview more staff members at Saratoga High and tell their stories. It's our hope that this will help our staff connect with one another better as we learn each other's stories, but also that it might provide a one cool thing moment for other colleagues. Since this is a podcast published for anyone, perhaps this can have a ripple effect as it reaches our sister school, Los Gatos, or beyond. Okay, so we are here with PJ Yim, who teaches mathematics at Saratoga High School. You teach, can you share real quick what you teach?
Right
currently?
now I'm teaching 2 classes of BC, 2 classes of pre-calc honors, and 1 class geometry.
Of geometry. Nice. Okay, well, so would you mind telling me a little bit about yourself? What's your story that led you to Saratoga in your current capacity?
Okay, so I teach math, and in addition to that, I have been its math club advisor for all the years that I've been here except for previous 4 years. And then I came back, and again, I'm being co-advising with Sivita Agarwal. And then most of the years that I've been at Saratoga, I've always been math club advisor for the Redwood Math Club as well, Redwood Middle School Math Club. Mm-hmm. But anyways, I've taught for about 7 years at Leland High School before I came to Saratoga High.
Okay.
And then after my wife got pregnant with my 3rd child, our finances became kind of a little tight.
Yeah.
So I figured I applied to actually 1 high school actually, at Saratoga High, and then the other was a possibility of maybe me going back into industry, but the likelihood of that happening, having taught for like at that point about 12, 13 years, was slim to none.
Yeah.
So I thought I would be moving to a different state or whatnot, but luckily I got hired, so I've been here since that time. Yeah, so I just fell into teaching because one thing led to another. It was never my design to be a teacher in the first place. I've only meant to teach for like a couple of years, but then I met my wife, and she urged me to stay on as a teacher. So I did. I mean, because she put the family time above anything else, right? So I wondered, we will never be able to drive Mercedes, and she's like, she was fine with that.
Yeah.
Right. So so I've been here ever since. In terms of spending my time, balancing my family time, it hasn't always been easy because I'm splitting my time between teaching, advising 2 different math clubs for the most part, and I also help out with officiate the swim meets actually, because all 3 of my kids swim. But so some of my habits had to, my hobbies actually had to take a back seat, but I think that's okay.
Yeah,
right.
That's a lot to juggle.
Right.
I'm curious, where did you go to school? What did you study?
I grew up in Boston, and then I went to Boston University. I was lucky to have gotten So Boston Public School that I attended has a relationship with Boston University and many universities around Boston, and each school is allotted 3 scholarships, I think, to Boston University, but you have to be qualified. So what ends up happening is that if the other high schools don't have qualified candidates, it rolls back to different schools, like it rolls around. And I think my high school had 13, 16 students. It was a fairly competitive high school, so 13 of us, I think, got a full scholarship to Boston University.
Wow!
And I was one of them.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was. So I'm not stranger to being competitive high school. I think out of 154 graduating students, all 154 went to 4-year college.
Okay.
And then if you add up all the students who got scholarship and like elite schools, I think it was like maybe a third of the students.
Wow.
Who had that. So so when I went to college, it wasn't too much of a shock for some people.
It's kind of expected. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but there was certainly a bit of a jump, but it wasn't unexpected. But I kind of grew up in a very traditional, old school family, and my social life was non-existent. And I used to get invited to parties and like sleepovers, whatever, but it never happened. And then I think when I went to college, like you've been like kind of caged,
bottled up
all your life, and then complete freedom. So I actually went berserk for about 2.5 years. So I remember times, I think for my multivariable calculus class, I think I went to class 3 times.
Oh gosh, yeah.
First day, the midterm, and a final, and it ended up getting an okay grade. I think I did 0 homework, but ended up still getting okay grades simply because of the curve on the tests.
Yeah.
I think I learned the entire multivariable calculus in 8 hours.
Oh my gosh.
4 hours for the midterm and 4 hours for the final. But anyways, I was really distracted in college, so I ultimately actually ended up walking away from the scholarship.
Wow.
And then my mom was completely devastated, and then many years later I kind of woke up and said maybe I should finish my degree. I went back to school, and I went to school called Framingham State College, right? So I was grateful for the opportunity because, if I was still living in Korea and pulled this stunt, I'll be digging ditches right now.
Yeah.
Right. So, the thing is that here, there's always a second chance.
It's amazing.
It may not be the place that you want to be.
Sure.
But it's a chance. So the funny thing is, I had more of a gratitude towards me being able to go to Framingham State College. Then when I was a kid, got a full ride.
Yeah,
to
you
Boston
were more
University.
invested in it the second time around.
Oh yeah, I was paying for every penny of it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one thing that my parents did, is like make sure that we took ownership of our lives, and I paid for every penny of that when I was at Framingham State College.
Yeah.
So it took, I had like 2 years, maybe 1.5 years worth left.
Okay.
That took me like 4 or 5 years.
Oh my, yeah.
I
It's a big difference when you're having to pay for it yourself.
Yeah,
and
it's
probably
completely
work
different.
at the same time.
Yeah. So I've been in like both sides.
Okay.
It's like being a competitive math team. High expectations.
Yeah.
At the time, my brother was doing his PhD at MIT, and my mom was thinking, "Oh my God, this is amazing! Everybody's doing wonderful, and my second son will do even better than the oldest son."
Oh no!
And to their surprise, a complete and utter disappointment.
Oh.
So I'm the black sheep of my family.
Oh, that's too funny. Well,
Yeah.
I'm sure they're quite proud of you.
Yeah,
now.
but I think, because of that experience, though, I tend to, when I see kids' eyes, my students, when they're about to be mischievous, I kind of sense it right away.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, anyways,
Oh,
that's my story.
That's a great story. That's really great.
Yeah.
Well, and so I'm sure this kind of segues into the next question where we're thinking about connecting with our students. I can imagine that you can pick up on the different, kinds of kids that you were like that maybe as a student or either in college or in class. But we have this amazingly diverse staff in the way that our teachers teach, and I love seeing all the different ways our staff members connect with their students and or their colleagues. So I'm curious what ways you build connections with students or colleagues, whether it's kind of the implicit way you teach or maybe very like explicit activities. What ways do you connect with students?
I mean, I don't really consciously think about I'm building a connection with anybody. I was just always raised to treat other people like I wouldn't be treated. I think by nature I'm actually kind of introvert, and I don't like to speak in front of others, right? And I just like to keep to myself. But being a teacher that I am, I have to speak out and whatnot. But I don't know. I mean, in the past I've reached out to students quite a bit, especially before I got married. I invest a lot of my time, like meeting them before, during, and after school. And when I was at Leland, and I did actually a little bit of this for the first 2-3 years at Saratoga, is I would actually come here on Saturdays. I mean, I'll bring my kids with me and let the kids know that I'm here, and if they need any extra help.
Oh, wow.
I used to do stuff like that, and I even made a stupid name. It's called SAW, S-A-W, Saturday Algebra Workshop. But anyways, I mean, I used to go out of my way to do that, but I mean, those who were committed did improve. But I think that's when I sort of realized it's part of my best efforts when some kids are not ready, they're not ready to receive that help. So I try to take the attitude that I like to leave my door always open and help anybody actually when they walk in the door. But I would reach out, but not in a very uncomfortable way, I hope. I try to give my students their space. When I do invite them, it's very casual. So when they're ready, hopefully they'll come in for help. But as far as the way I teach, though, as a student, I always disliked certain classes where they just give me a list of facts that I had to memorize. And more often than not, I had to figure out for myself why the things work the way they do. And so I try to, I mean, even when I'm teaching math, I try to talk about why things work the way they do, the underlying ideas behind them. Of course, I mean, I will always talk about the procedures and good problem-solving skills, obviously, but I think understanding how things work, the underlying ideas, how they connect, I think opens the door for a lot of students and takes away the mystery behind mathematics. But it does take a little bit of a learning curve to go through that. So there is a bit of discomfort initially, but once you get over that discomfort, it's actually, I found math to be, especially at this level, I think very approachable. When you approach it that way. But I do have a tendency to be sage in a stage. So it's been great help to work with a lot of the colleagues in the department. And especially like for the past couple of years, I've been working with Savita, and she has a lot of great ideas about how to make activities relevant and fun and interesting. So I've been taking a lot of guide from her, and in previous years, Jan Mantle, and before that with Debbie Troxel and whatnot, and other people, like whatever they could, I could get from them. I beg, I borrow. But I know what my weakness is, and coming up with activities for the group in an engaging way. So I've been trying to supplement my weakness with help of my colleagues in that manner.
That's a great focus for collaboration, though, and I think the opportunity to find activities that get to what you care deeply about, which is the getting to the why and that more exploratory part. Like, I could see that being a cool partnership with your colleagues, something that you value, something that will help the students in the end.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a great.
I mean, I think even just a change of pace. I mean, even if the particular way of learning modality is most efficient and the best, I mean, sometimes the variety does spark interest.
Yeah, it's about having that variety, right? Because the block period is long. You want to be able to chunk it up, hit multiple modalities.
Right. So so I still focus on my bread and butter, but I think sprinkling those activities takes away the monotony. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it does get. I mean, admittedly, it does get a little boring.
Sure.
So I've been getting a lot of help and trying to sprinkling in those activities that makes learning relevant and hopefully more fun.
Yeah. Well, and I would argue that doing those activities will also build more connections within your class and even with you and your students.
Right. And then Saratoga kids are generally really good about working together while in a group setting. I don't have to remind them too much to stay focused. For the most part, it's been great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so I guess, I mean, you hinted at seeing stuff your colleagues. So, I'm always talking about one cool thing, this idea you see somebody do something that's like, oh, I got to try that. That's so cool. And then you end up, adapting it to your own context and ends up being potentially transformative to the way you teach. I'm curious if you've ever had a one cool thing moment, and how did it happen and what impact did it have on you? This could be like within your class or maybe totally unrelated to school.
Well, I mean, at the beginning of my teaching career, I just to call on students at random or whoever raised their hands first, and then I realized that prompted class to go a little bit too fast. Only the eager students were in it and the rest were just pulled back. And calling students at random seemed a little like some of them get caught up by surprise. So I see Debbie Troxel do this. She just has a list of students and they don't have to raise their hands, and she just goes by alphabetical order.
Yeah.
Right? So students know that they've gone 2 days ago.
They're coming up.
Now when it's their turn to put up the homework in the class, so they're mentally prepared for that. So you get to everybody and they get to, and then because they know they're going to get called, I mean, they'll be a little bit more prepared for it and maybe talk to classmates. And I've seen that happen quite a bit. So, I've been doing that. So I sort of copied that. It seems so simple. So I just call them alphabetical order. And, I tried different varieties. Like I would try, like, randomizing who I called and whatnot. But students preferred that I do that.
Yeah.
And then, but the funny thing is, because of that, instead of having a printout of the students, I actually have a spreadsheet for that.
Okay.
Google Sheets. And then, because I started doing that, I started using Google Sheets, Google Forms for a lot of things. So it kind of segued into me getting more familiar with Google platform.
Yeah.
And I use that in class in like different ways, like simple things like for years I've been using that to, if students want to be able to apply for a rec letter, that they fill it out over there, and when at the beginning of the year, if the students fill out something about themselves, right? Most teachers would have a little paper, but I would have that on a Google form, and I have all the information. So if a student came from a different school, I don't necessarily know what they took last year, but I would have all that information, and if they're allergic to anything, is their preferred pronouns, is their preferred names. With certain Chinese kids, a lot of Asian kids, I think they have their given names, but oftentimes they would rather be called something that's easier to pronounce. Right. So that was taken care of that way.
Interesting.
And where they want to be seated, right?
All
that information I have, like in the first day, because I asked them to fill it out. On Google Forms and whatnot. And now, funny thing is, like all my lesson plans, all my notes are Google Doc. So I rely less on hard drive. Right? I mean, so the funny thing is, it's like all it was me just being too lazy to print out a roster periodically and then have to put in an Excel spreadsheet.
Right.
So I decided to just use Google Sheets for that, calling out students, segue into using the old Google platform.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how things work out.
That's great. That's like just a wonderful example of this kind of one cool thing,
Right.
domino effect that can
Right.
happen, right?
Right,
You know,
right.
you get this idea and you kind of take that first step, and then all of a sudden now it's opened up all these other possibilities.
Right.
That's really awesome. So I would like to know what's something that you do that you're proud of, or alternatively, if you don't want to toot your own horn, something maybe something you're proud to be a part of. And this could be personally or professionally.
I don't know. I mean, I don't necessarily think in that terms. So something that you do that you're proud of. I don't know, man. I'm kind of busy trying to stay afloat.
Yeah.
Right. I don't really have time to sort of think about what I'm proud of or whatnot. But I mean, what I do feel is immense gratitude for the life that I have and the second chance that I've been given. And yeah, I mean, so I try to lead my life every day with that kind of gratitude. And actually looking back, look to my high school years, Mr. Stengel was my math club coach, and he spent a lot of time with us, the time that he needed to spend. And after every season, he'll take us out to a restaurant called European in the north end part of Boston. And that's one of the rare times actually I ate out in my life. So what I've been doing was started working as a math club advisor when I came out to California. So I started doing stuff like that, like tell them when I have at the end of the season, I'll take out, in the past, I'll take out my officers and eat and talk about what we did for the year and sort of give us a chance to reflect. So all through my learning career, life, like I had amazing teachers and wonderful human beings that I've been with. So I've been trying to emulate them, those people that I respect. And those who passed away, those who I respected. So I've been trying to emulate a lot of good human beings that I've run across in my life. So yeah, I don't know if that answers the question.
No,
but
I like that. I like that a lot. That's being proud of the people who have been your mentors and people you aspire to, and then being able to like pull those best traits into your everyday life and emulating that. I really like that. Well, the last question I have is, is there anything at Saratoga that you wish we were talking more about or doing more to address, or maybe in education, in a larger context?
I mean, I think when Paul was here, I mean, he tried to address like a lot of the school spirit or whatnot. And I think it's much better now than it was before he came. So Saratoga has no shortage of students who push themselves, work hard, and the support system for stuff like that exists everywhere. But I don't know. I mean, I think I wish like our students and the parents will take a bigger view of what they're doing, right? Actually, I can't form a right way to say this right now, but the word, I haven't heard the word integrity emphasized in context of education. I remember hearing that a lot as a kid. I remember hearing that a lot as both when I was in Korea and when I grew up in Boston, and being able to stand up on your 2 feet and taking responsibility for your actions. and whatnot. I don't know if there's a less of it now, but I don't hear that as much.
It's true.
So the personal integrity, do unto others what they'll do unto you, that sort of thing.
Character.
Right.
Personal character attributes. Yeah.
Right. Actually, funny enough, about a week ago, during the practice, for the math club for the Redwood Middle School kids, and I sort of talked to them about that actually. There's a swim club in Orinda whose motto is character first. And I told them that them succeeding and we're meeting all week, like 3 times extra per week, aside from the regular club meetings, just 4 times a week, right? Like about 4 hours on a Saturday. It's all great. Achievement is a wonderful thing. The happiest people I've met are usually, or I should say most content people that I've met, were the people who work the hardest. Because, you've done your best to get where you are.
Yeah.
But I told them there's something to say about when I'm working as a swim official, the kids in Orinda Swim Club just walking over and say thank you to all the volunteers. Because I would devote my weekends, the entire weekend. We don't get paid for that. We don't do it because we get paid or anything. We do it because we want to create an environment for our children, for a healthy sports, kind of balanced life. And I would see the same kids walk into the people who are preparing their lunches and whatnot, just helping in the background, right? Making it all happen, just thanking them.
Right.
And it sort of stands out because I remember as a kid, that was the norm.
Yeah.
But out here in California, the Orinda Swim Club is the only one that I ran across that's like that.
Yeah.
Just saying thank you.
Yeah.
And making eye contact and say, hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
Right? You don't have to have a long conversation. Just say, hey, what's up?
Right.
I think that's sort of missing.
Yeah.
And what I do regret is, I try to talk about this in my class, I see kids coming from other places. Like, there are students from Mission San Jose area, high school, right? I've seen kids who went away to private school and came back, or different area. At least not in my class, anyways, right? I don't see kids reaching out and say, "Hey, welcome to our class."
Right.
There's no welcome to our class or welcome period. It's just like, oh, they're sort of there.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe they're too used to being with people they grew up with. I don't know what the deal is. But the things that I grew up with, the things that I saw as the norm, wasn't quite there.
Right.
Those social niceties, right? Acknowledging another human being, and they don't have to be your classmates.
Right.
Right. So just saying simple thank you. It doesn't have to be. I don't need extravagant gifts. I don't need any of that.
Yeah.
That doesn't make me feel better. In fact, most of the time, I don't remember who gave it to me.
Yeah.
And that's on purpose, actually, because I don't want to remember who gave it to me, right? The little cards they give with a lot of, if they said something that's kind of interesting and unique, right? Yeah, then I can't help but to remember those things.
Sure. Yeah.
But that's what I see is a little lacking. I think, them just reaching out to people and say, hey, welcome to our neighborhood.
Right.
Right. So I wish there's a little bit more of that.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Yeah, I totally hear what you're saying, and I've seen that in my own classes as well. Just those general interpersonal skills, and I think that kids who play sports often get a little bit of that integrity piece, and the teaching what it means to have character and be a good sportsman. Those are like life skills, those are character skills. But if kids aren't actively involved in sports, they may be missing out on that, and we may not be structuring our classes to teach those skills in an explicit way. But I could totally see those, and I'll also say that when I write letters of recommendation, if the student I'm writing for is a person of character, has good integrity, I will almost always reference that. You know, I almost always at the end say, above all of what I just said above, you know, this is a person of integrity and character, somebody you can trust, who is fundamentally a good person.
Right.
You know, I think that, you know, it's interesting as we're having conversations about Portrait of a Graduate and what character attributes or skills do we want kids to have. You know, interpersonal skills and good character, integrity could be a focus. It's definitely something
to me, we're social animals.
Yeah.
To me, that rises above anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Look, I mean, if you do a little bit better in the math test, a little bit worse, you know,
whatever, doesn't
like
matter.
91, 89, I don't know. You
Yeah.
know, it's at the end of the day, the most kids in that school they should go to anyways. And there's a lot of much ado about nothing, really. I mean, a lot of nervous energy I see happening.
Mm-hmm.
But with all this amped up energy, I think we could take a little time to say hello to our neighbors, and especially like new people that come here.
Yeah.
I often wonder what those students think of. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because when you go to, I actually told one of my classes that, look, maybe you guys are used to growing up in the same place with many of your classmates and whatnot, but just remember this. You'll be going to college pretty soon, and you'll be going to a place where you don't know most people.
Yeah, and you got to be able to put yourself out there. You got to be able to turn to that person and say, "Hi, how are you? My name is."
Right, and I said, have a little bit of empathy. You will be in that situation.
Yeah.
And then when you see new people coming in, just saying simple hello and welcome and join us. I think there's something a little bit more.
Yeah.
I wish we had a little bit more of that.
Yeah.
Right. Regardless of the class that I teach, whether it's BC.
Right.
To pre-calc honors or geometry, it seems to be prevalent throughout the entire community. Maybe it's because they never had to, because they all grew up together.
Right.
Maybe that's a possibility. But then again, when I visited like Northern California, the actual Northern California,
that's where I'm from, just for reference.
Right. I mean, I knew people from like the Jefferson State.
Yeah, that's state of Jefferson. That's where I'm from.
Right. I mean, I remember like going to what do you call that? A bluegrass festival up near the Oregon border. Right. People are different. I mean, it's good old fashioned. Hi, how you doing?
Yeah.
Waving to people.
You don't even know.
That you don't know. That's a norm.
It's so funny you say that, because this was a total shock for me when I moved from Northern California to what everybody calls Northern California, which is Central California.
I call it Central California.
Yeah, we're coming down to Santa Cruz area. I grew up like you waved at everybody, right? Anybody you see, you wave, you smile, you say hi when you're walking down the street, and then I started doing that down here, and people gave me dirty looks and thought I was crazy, like, and even today, like on my own street, which is, mountains, Santa Cruz mountains, I wave to everybody on the road, and I get, a quarter of the cars return a wave, it's so funny. It's like, so maybe in the classroom, maybe we take a day and say, hey, shake hands and say hi, how are you doing, to 5 people before we get started today.
That might not be a bad idea. The funny thing is, I chose my current house for similar reasons, actually. I used to live in Cupertino, right behind the Apple campus, where the Lawson Middle School is. I mean, I used to live there, but it was time for us to move. So, but my wife wanted to stay in Cupertino or Sunnyvale area. And I told her I'd rather not be there because I really don't feel a good vibe. I don't really feel a sense of community. Anyways, over the summer, like I would have both my kids strapped in the back in the minivan. So these are junior seniors right now, but they were like 4 or 5 years old back then. So I'm driving around and I saw this area. I don't even know where this was. It turned out to be Cambrian, right? San Jose, the area that's next between San Jose and Los Gatos. In fact, my entire street that I live in, about half of it, it's like San Jose, Los Gatos, San Jose, Los Gatos.
Yeah, it gets really muddled in that
area.
area.
It's one of those areas, right? So I saw there were a lot of trees. So I was like, I pulled over and there's a home for sale. I just stood there looking at the area. I was like, not bad. I like trees.
Yeah.
It seems like a very walkable neighborhood. Stop and Shop and coffee shop is like within 2 blocks. It's a very short walk. And usually I say hello first, but without me saying anything, the couple just walking by say hello first.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And then I'm still just looking around the neighborhood, leaving my minivan door open, and 4 different people walking past me said hello to me. And I said, this is it.
Yeah.
So I convinced my wife that this is a place to be.
Yeah.
I told her, trust me, right?
Yeah.
And then, that's where I moved in. Not because it had the best schools or anything like that. It has pretty decent schools. It's Lee High School.
Yeah.
But people actually would talk to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. The house I lived in before that, I would actively say hello. You could literally see them turning their nose away.
Yeah, I don't understand that.
I just don't understand that.
Yeah.
It's like, I look at them and, I give them a quick look, hey, how you doing?
Yeah. And for you, a self-proclaimed introvert, it doesn't take much. You don't have to be.
No, it doesn't.
It's just a simple hello. Yeah.
It's a hi. I'm not looking to have a long conversation. There's time and place for that.
Sure.
But when you're walking by, simple acknowledgement to me. What I found kind of interesting was I heard that there was a African tribe. Everything's about African tribe. That says that not acknowledging somebody is the worst thing you could do to a human being, because you're not acknowledging their existence.
Right. And
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
I think just saying hi, it's a simple thing to do. It doesn't take much of energy. So, you know what? It is what it is. But I hope that we would sort of move in that direction.
Yeah.
And I know it's kind of busy around here and a lot of bustling energy, but it doesn't take much to say hi.
That's great. I totally agree, and I think that's a great point to leave off here. And anyone who is listening to this, who we can maybe challenge them to encourage their students or encourage themselves to say hi to people more. I know today I'm gonna make a point of saying hi to more people. It's an important thing, and it doesn't take much effort, and it goes a long way and builds those connections.
Yeah,
for sure.
Because I'm naturally introverted, right? I have to consciously think about to do it.
Me too, for sure.
But it's wherever I go to a place that does that, it just feels good. If I feel like I'm part of the community. Yeah, it doesn't take much.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for taking
thanks
time.
for talking to me.
Yeah, it was a great conversation. All right. Thank you. My first published podcast since the Refocus Priority is with PJ Yim, a veteran math teacher at Saratoga High School. I'm really excited to share this interview because he's a quiet yet strong presence on campus, and the things he talks about are super relatable for all of us. I've named this podcast Let's Start With Saying Hello because our conversation led to an important discussion about something that happens to be very much SEL and something we need to work on with our students. Saying hello, making that initial contact with someone regardless of whether we know them. So, thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoy the interview. All right, well, thanks again for listening. I hope you enjoyed that interview. Hopefully you know PJ a little bit better. And if you work on campus with him, next time you see him, say hello. Maybe thank him for putting himself out there and sharing on this little podcast. If our conversation about smiling and waving and saying hello resonated with you, then here's your challenge. Put yourself out there, smile and wave more, and say hi to people you know. If you cross paths with a colleague you don't know well, start with hello and maybe a follow-up question. In your class, have your students practice saying hello. Have them shake hands with 5 people. Say hi, introduce themselves, and ask a question. Maybe tell them why you think that's important. It just might be the smallest but best start at creating greater connections in your school. Until next time, share the cool things you do and actively seek out new cool things all the time. You never know what might be your next one cool thing. Thanks for listening.